Jivaro in 3D. I had been pronouncing this Jivaro, but phonetics be damned, it is actually Jivaro. They actually do say it Jivaro in the movie, but that went over my head until I listened to the commentary track. The commentary track is gold. Often film commentaries rarely touch on 3D, but this one is done by the 3D archive team, and you get a solid 90 minutes exploring every aspect of it. So much so, I wish I had a printed copy to reference. Now, Jivaro is something of a bridge to the modern 3D world. It used a one-of-a-kind camera that was only ever used on this film. It allowed easy and wide adjustment of the space between the eyes, and they put it to use by adjusting it for every shot. It makes for a relaxed watch that is easy on the eyes. At certain points, I wondered if it was too easy, especially on a fairly shallow big action moment at the end. But then again, in hindsight, it is tough to soak in 3D when there is a lot of action. So perhaps they knew what they were doing. It is unique to find such a carefully composed 3D movie from the 50s. This would make a good comparison watch with just about anything else from the era, and also gives a hint of what stereo film might have looked like had they continued making them at that time. A couple of weeks ago, I reviewed Sangaree, which was Paramount's first 3D film, and Jivaro is probably their last. Apparently they never actually released the 3D version. So much like September Storm, this version of the film was never really seen until this 3D archive restoration and Blu-ray release. In terms of the film itself, you may notice they chose very drab, earthy colors, which, although appropriate for the setting, wasn't a great fit for stereo. 3D prefers vividness, high contrast. Stereo is very much a narcissistic, garish show-off. It just doesn't know what to do in plain clothes. Or perhaps a better way to make my point is, with the well-adjusted lens and the muted colors, the stereo doesn't come between the viewer and the movie. It blends into the experience very well. Add in the charm of the actors, and you get a very immersive experience. And it really wasn't until my second viewing that I began to appreciate the 3D aspect as a thing in and of itself. Now, there are some shots in the rain, and if you pay attention, you'll be able to notice various layers of raindrops, something you really only get from natively shot 3D. Apparently, Rhonda Fleming hurt herself in one of the rain shots and wouldn't speak to the director for days after. Unfortunately, there aren't more exact details about the incident. There are some flat inserts, some stock Amazon forest footage of snakes that are kind of silly. They also went to some expense to create a couple of establishing shots in a kind of paper doll 3D style. It seems obvious today, but it was sophisticated and expensive stuff for its time. Story-wise, it's not really an adventure, though it has an Indiana Jones moment. I might describe it as something of a reverse love story. Though it's not played for tears, it's kind of a sad situation for everyone involved. Now, the actor Fernando Lamas was known as a person who had a great appreciation for style, though in movies he seemed to rarely keep his shirt on. He died in 1982, but he wasn't soon forgotten. A couple of years later, the comedian Billy Crystal began imitating him with what became Billy Crystal's signature catchphrase, "You look marvelous." Funny that I've seen that, enjoyed it, but was completely clueless that he was imitating anyone. Culture really has no memory, does it? Not satisfied with his influence on the 80s, Lamas also apparently served as inspiration for those early 2000s beer commercials starring the most interesting man in the world. Looking at those old commercials, it actually got me thinking about the nature of interesting. What is interesting? Knowing stuff is pretty dull, may even be intimidating, but what makes the ideas from a person's mouth not boring? Well, let's have Lamas himself give us some insight. In the roles I've seen him play, his character always, in addition to knowing his stuff, always had a deep concern for other people. And it kind of dawned on me that interesting always demonstrates a concern. It seems to be a combination of knowledge plus concern that transforms a person into interesting. And, well, easy to say. Now, try and do it. Stay thirsty, my friends.